I had always believed that it was enough to do a good job to be respected, that it was enough to deliver consistent results, be loyal, maintain your posture, and treat everyone politely to guarantee not only a stable place in any company, but also the genuine admiration of colleagues and leadership. But professional life is not made up of merit alone, but of invisible games, of silent dynamics that escape even the most attentive eyes. And it was this shock of reality that hit me hard the moment I saw my name being ignored by a woman who had just taken control of the company in which I had invested more than 7 years of my life, surrendering my energy, my weekends, my rest, and even my mental health in the name of absurd targets and insane deadlines. Always smiling, always saying, "Sure, I'll sort it out," even when it meant spending late nights finishing presentations, negotiating contracts with difficult clients, or reorganizing processes that no one else wanted to touch. All because I believed that loyalty was a two-way street, and that in the end, those who build solid bridges will never be left behind. But I was wrong, deeply wrong, because all it took was a personal whim, a frustration disguised as leadership, for my reputation to be discarded like a paper cup after a meeting, all for not having praised a photo in the company's internal group, something that at first glance seemed small, but that for Valerie Knight, the new interim manager and girlfriend of the CEO, represented a direct affront to her inflated vanity. And the most ironic thing is that, even though I had been responsible for 80% of the company's revenues over the last 3 years, even though I had saved crucial accounts and turned around negotiations that had all but been lost, I had become expendable overnight. And worse, with the right to a public humiliation disguised as a professional reprimand. When I entered his office for a chat and was greeted with an object being thrown in my direction, a light cut on my forehead caused by the corner of a hard folder that, although it left no visible scars, marked my spirit with a clarity that no previous therapy had been able to achieve. And there, with blood trickling discreetly down my eyebrow and a desperate urge to scream, I knew that no matter how much I had done for the company, no matter how many sleepless nights I had spent, no matter how many compliments I had received from satisfied clients, it could all be erased by a single ego-based decision. And while Valerie spoke in an aggressive voice, citing company policies that she herself didn't respect, and twisting rules to shape her narrative, I kept my gaze fixed on the painting behind her head, a generic portrait of some city, because looking at it gave me a mixture of disgust and incredulity that I didn't want to let show. And even though I knew that the CEO, Andrew Miller, had granted me the informal benefit of coming in at 10 a.m. in recognition of my performance, Valerie made a point of ignoring this agreement, and the worst part was seeing her call him right there in front of me, in a sweet voice that contrasted with her real cruelty, saying things like, "There's an employee who's always late, love, can I fire her?" I and he, busy on some business trip, replied with a, "Do what you think is best, dear," and hung up, little knowing that he had just thrown away the person who supported the company's foundation. And so I was fired. Not for incompetence, not for a character flaw, not for bad behavior, but for not having flattered the wrong person. And I left the room with my face cut and my soul in pieces, while my colleagues looked at me in silence, not knowing whether to hug me or walk away. And I, trying to maintain the minimum of dignity, limited myself to smiling and saying it was good while it lasted, and went back to my desk, packing my things with hands that trembled slightly, feeling every glance weigh on me like invisible stones. And as I did so, an avalanche of thoughts passed through my head. Memories of all the times I was praised by Andrew himself in performance meetings, of all the monthly achievements that made me stand out in the sales team, of every difficult client who entrusted me with their needs because they knew they were safe with me. And I realized that all this effort had been in vain, because in the end, all it took was a whim to erase everything. And as I listened to Valerie in the corridor saying that I was insubordinate, proud, full of myself, I took a deep breath, trying not to explode, and wondered why I had endured so long in silence, why I had let small abuses pass. Offensive jokes, mean comments, unequal workloads, unfulfilled promises, all in the name of a supposed stability that never really existed. And when I finally left the company, with my cardboard box in my hands, I received one last look of compassion from Amanda, my assistant, who with her eyes watering said, "That's not fair." And I just replied, "But maybe it's necessary," because deep down, I knew that something was about to change, that this pain was not the end, but the beginning. even if at that moment I didn't yet know what lay ahead. And so, that same evening, instead of giving in to self-pity, I picked up my cell phone and began to write a standard message to all my most important clients, informing them of my departure and making it clear that I would soon have news. And what followed was a flood of replies, some with surprise, others with indignation, and many with promises to follow me wherever I went. And I slept late, exhausted, but with a strange feeling of hope in my chest, a spark that said, "You'll turn it around." And in the following days, while Valerie tried to put out fires that she herself had caused, losing contracts, dealing with mass layoffs, and being confronted by a team that hated her in silence, I worked from home on an independent consultancy project, in informal meetings with influential people who had always respected my work and who now wanted to see me shine on my own. And it was in one of these meetings that I received an offer from Ricardo Monroe, CEO of one of the largest marketing agencies in the country, who offered me not only an exclusive contract, but also the possibility of setting up my own team, leading national and international campaigns, and above all, acting with total freedom, without insecure bosses, without power games, and without having to flatter anyone to be heard. And I accepted, of course, not out of revenge, but because I finally found myself free to be myself. And when Valerie found out, she panicked, called me, sent me desperate messages, tried to accuse me of stealing information, threatened me with lawsuits, and then changed her tune, asked for help, said she would do anything to get me back, promised me a raise, a leadership position, an annual bonus, everything. But I didn't want any of that because I had something much more valuable: my peace of mind, my autonomy, and an unshakable conviction that I deserved much more than she could offer. And when Andrew came back from his trip and saw the chaos, he tried to talk to me, asked for a meeting, said he was sorry, that he wanted to make amends, but I politely refused, explained that I was on a new path, building something bigger, and that there was no turning back. And from then on, my company grew like never before. We won important contracts, we won awards, received public recognition, formed an incredible team made up mostly of women who, like me, had already been underestimated. And there, in that new reality that I created myself, I realized that what seemed like the end was actually the beginning of everything. And every time I looked back, I saw not a victim of injustice, but a woman who had the courage to start again from scratch and prove that she doesn't need to be validated by anyone to know her own worth.